The result was the Duesenberg Model J, a machine so advanced that it embarrassed nearly every competitor the moment it appeared. Under the hood was a massive straight-eight engine, producing around 265 horsepower in its naturally aspirated form, and even more in the supercharged variants. To put that into perspective, many cars of the era struggled to make a fraction of that power. This wasn't just impressive on paper. It translated into real performance. The Duesenberg could comfortably cruise at highway speeds when most roads weren't even designed for such travel. Top speeds crossed the 10 mile/hour mark, which at the time felt almost unreal. But raw power was only part of the story. What truly separated the Duesenberg was how that power was delivered. The engine featured dual overhead camshafts and 4 valves per cylinder, technology that was far ahead of its time. This wasn't experimental or fragile engineering either. It was built to last, designed with precision and confidence. Driving a Duesenberg wasn't about wrestling with a machine. It was about commanding it. The power was smooth, controlled, and deliberate, reinforcing the idea that this car was engineered by people who knew exactly what they were doing. Step inside a Duesenberg, and the experience becomes even more surreal. These cars were often coach-built, meaning each body was custom-made to the buyer's taste. No two were exactly alike. Interiors were wrapped in the finest leather, detailed with hand-finished wood, and accented with metalwork that looked more like fine jewelry than automotive components. Every switch, every dial, every surface was designed to communicate authority and refinement. This wasn't luxury meant to impress strangers. It was luxury meant to satisfy the owner. What's fascinating is that, despite all this extravagance, the Duesenberg wasn't soft or disconnected. The steering was precise, the chassis felt composed, and the car communicated the road in a way that made you feel involved rather than isolated. It was a grand machine, but not a lazy one. There was a sense of balance between comfort and control that many modern luxury cars still struggle to achieve. The cultural impact of the Duesenberg is impossible to ignore. During its prime, owning one wasn't just a sign of wealth. It was a statement of status and taste. This was the car of industrialists, movie stars, and people who didn't need to explain their success. The phrase, "it's a doozy," became part of everyday language, directly inspired by the sheer presence and reputation of the Duesenberg. When one arrived, people noticed, not because it demanded attention, but because it naturally commanded it. Of course, perfection at this level came with a price. Duesenbergs were incredibly expensive to build and buy, and the market for such uncompromising machines was limited. The Great Depression didn't help either. Eventually, the brand faded, not because it failed technically, but because the world changed. Priorities shifted. Mass production, affordability, and practicality took over. There was no longer room for a car that existed purely to be the best, regardless of cost. Today, the Duesenberg lives on as one of the most respected and valuable collector cars in the world. Seeing one in person feels less like encountering a vehicle and more like standing in front of a moving piece of art. Every detail tells a story of ambition, confidence, and refusal to settle. This isn't nostalgia talking, it's recognition. The Duesenberg represents a peak, a moment when engineers and designers were allowed to chase excellence without being restrained by spreadsheets or market surveys. What makes the Duesenberg truly legendary isn't just its speed, its luxury, or its rarity. It's the mindset behind it. This was a car built by people who believed that greatness was worth pursuing, even if the world wasn't ready to support it long term. In that sense, the Duesenberg isn't just part of automotive history. It's a reminder of what's possible when craftsmanship, engineering, and vision align without compromise. And that's why, even today, nearly a century later, the Duesenberg doesn't feel outdated. It feels timeless, not because it fits modern standards, but because it helped define what those standards should be in the first place. Because when you look at a Duesenberg today, you're not judging it by modern metrics like fuel efficiency, infotainment systems, or safety assists. You're judging it by something far more fundamental: intent. Every nut, bolt, and surface on this car exists for a reason, and that reason is excellence. There is no filler here, no compromise hidden behind marketing language. The Duesenberg was honest in a way very few machines ever are. One of the most overlooked aspects of the Duesenberg is how confidently it handled innovation. Features that were considered futuristic or even unnecessary at the time came standard, or were available long before competitors caught on. Hydraulic brakes on all four wheels, for example, were not common in that era, yet Duesenberg adopted them because they understood that speed without control was meaningless. The same philosophy applied to suspension tuning, cooling systems, and overall mechanical balance. This wasn't innovation for headlines, it was innovation for mastery. Driving accounts from the period often mention how composed the car felt at speed. That matters because many powerful cars of the time were terrifying to push. They were fast in a straight line and chaotic everywhere else. The Duesenberg was different. It inspired confidence. It felt planted, predictable, and refined, even when traveling at speeds most drivers had never experienced before. That level of composure didn't happen by accident. It came from obsessive attention to engineering details most manufacturers ignored. Then there's the sound. The straight-8 engine doesn't scream or shout. It delivers a deep, controlled mechanical note that feels purposeful rather than aggressive. It's the sound of authority, not insecurity. Even at idle, there's a sense that immense power is being held back, waiting patiently. When you accelerate, it doesn't lunge forward in panic. It moves with calm force, like it knows it has nothing to prove. The ownership experience was equally deliberate. Buying a Duesenberg wasn't like walking into a showroom and choosing from a few options. It was a process. Buyers worked closely with the manufacturer and coach builders to create something personal. The car became an extension of the owner's identity. Colors, materials, body styles, and details were all selected with care. This level of customization meant the car wasn't just expensive, it was intimate. It was built for one person, not the masses. This is also why surviving Duesenbergs today feels so special. Each one carries a unique story. You're not just looking at a model, you're looking at a decision one made decades ago about how they wanted to express success, taste, and ambition. That story is frozen in metal, leather, and wood, preserved through time. In the modern automotive world, luxury often means insulation. Quiet cabins, soft suspensions, and layers of technology is separating the driver from the machine. The Duesenberg represents the opposite philosophy. It offers refinement without disconnection. You feel the weight of the steering, the response of the throttle, the mechanical truth of what's happening beneath you. That honesty creates a deeper kind of luxury, one based on trust rather than isolation. It's also worth acknowledging that the Duesenberg wasn't perfect in a practical sense. It was large, heavy, and demanding. Maintenance required skill, patience, and resources. But that's part of the point. This car wasn't designed to be convenient. It was designed to be exceptional. And exceptional things usually ask more from their owners. That's why the Duesenberg continues to influence how we think about what a legendary car really is. It's not just about speed records or iconic styling. It's about intent, execution, and courage. The courage to build something without asking whether it would sell in massive numbers. The courage to believe that some people would always value the best, even if the best was rare. When collectors, historians, and enthusiasts talk about the greatest cars ever made, the Duesenberg always enters the conversation early, and it never feels forced. It belongs there. Not because of hype, but because of substance. It set a benchmark that many brands have tried to reach and very few have matched. In the end, the Duesenberg doesn't ask for admiration. It simply earns it. Through its engineering, its presence, and its refusal to compromise, it reminds us of a time when automobiles were built not just to move people, but to make a statement about what humans could achieve when they aimed unapologetically high